Hey, kia ora. Helen Brahms here, coming to you live from Sun City in Arizona. Hope you're having a super fantastic, sparkling day. Welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast number 1185. Today we're doing a weekly recap. I figured, why not? And it's been one of those days where it has been a lot going on and lots of exciting stuff happening. But I just thought I'd check in. How was your week? What did you get up to this week? What fun things did you do? What accomplishments did you achieve? And so forth. It's been, for me, it's been a really fun week because as I'm really starting to get into I'm starting to get into different patterns and things for my company. So as you know, we launched Before the Dirt Nap company on August the 1st of 2022. And I have this huge goal for it. I have a whole mind map surrounding this company and all the stuff it's going to be accomplishing in the next 10 years. So I have a big, huge vision for it. And I'm constantly adding to it as well. But there is just so much going on right now. And the cool part is it just started snowballing this week. I am sitting here literally shaking with excitement of what's happening. I'm finding it very hard to sit still in my seat. So if I start doing this, you know why? It's because it's just the excess energy. So I'm actually, as soon as we finish this, I'm going to take the dog for a quick walk, and then we're going to go to the dog park and let her run off energy, which means I can walk off energy while we're walking around the dog park and everything else. But Zeffie's picking up on the energy as well. So she's got this restless energy, that excess energy that she needs to get rid of as well. And because of the cooler temperatures and everything, our morning walks have been more intense because when it's a cooler temperature, Zeffie's like, we're walking, we're going, we're moving. And I'm like literally being dragged behind. I'm having to pull her back and say, loose leash. And that tells her that she's got to slow down. But no, she's just so excited and so full of energy in the mornings. That's what she wants to do. Same thing in the evenings. It's like we're going. And in the mornings, we have a set routine for walking. In the evenings, she gets to choose where we want to go. But she's still got to keep a loose leash because otherwise I'm walking like this all the way. And that's just, yeah, I'm not having that. I want my arm down, my arms at my side so I can just swing my arms as I'm walking. And there's that little bit of not tension, looseness in the leash. There's a slag in the leash, and so because she's picking up on my excitement as well, but with the cooler temperatures, she seems more energetic and more determined. And in the morning, she knows the routine. She's out the door, to the right, off we go, right around the block and back in again. But she does try to pull me away from the end of the street when we get to it because she wants to keep walking. And if we have the time, we do. If we're tight on time, we don't. So it just depends what day of the week it is, what time it is, as to whether or not she gets a slightly longer morning walk or evening walk. But in the evening, we go all over the place. There's 6 streets in this section of the resort, and there's one road that loops around them all. Well, around the outside of it. Yeah, the first and the 6th street are looped together, and we can walk the loop, and then we may do streets in between. It's up to her where she wants to go. In the evenings, I really have no time crunch unless I've got to get back for something. If we decide to do a walk before I do the live, then of course she's on a time crunch. But I try to do it afterwards. So we really have no schedule afterwards. So it's awesome, and she gets to walk wherever she wants to go, and within reason. Not allowed on other people's sites or that sort of thing. And it's really funny because she gets other dogs barking at her, and she's suddenly like, oh, they're barking at me. And then she does this like little dancing, trippy thing along the road, like, you want to come play? Come on, I want to say hello. Where are you? It does give her a start though. And if they turn the sprinklers on, she hears the water coming through the pipes for the sprinklers, and she was already taking off before the water starts. But I go, what's wrong? And like, it gives me a quick shock when she suddenly takes off, and then all of a sudden the sprinklers start going, you hit the water again. She hates the sprinklers. But anyway, so I thought tonight we might go to the PARK and let her run off some excess energy, since they are open till like 10:30 at night, and they've got all these lights up there, they've got security up there and everything else. It's really, really cool. So we'll go up there and check things out and see how long she wants to run around for. I know on cooler days she wants to stay a lot longer than if it's a hot day. Hot days she drags. But anyway, enough about the pup. So, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, the business. So I had an opportunity come up this week, and I think it was yesterday morning. It was yesterday morning that I was talking with a friend of mine about this project, and we're talking about it, and I needed to provide my business information for it, and I'm like, oh, I haven't filed my business stuff yet. And so she's sort of like, what? Well, we're going to need it for this, or we're not going to be able to do this project. And I'm sort of like, okay. And so thankfully, a friend of mine introduced me to Legal Shield a while ago. And so I got onto her and I said, okay, you guys have somewhere somehow where I can file for my business entity and all that stuff through the program. And she goes, yep, here it is. It costs $149 plus whatever the state filing fees are. And they do everything. And I'm like, awesome. So filled out all the stuff yesterday. They called me this morning. We had a 6-minute conversation. They sent me an email. And this evening I got all the paperwork filed. And I said to them, so, well, how long is this going to take? And she says, oh, you'll have it in like 2 to 3 days. And I'm like, seriously? Because last time I filed for an LLC, it took weeks because everything had to be filled out in paper, had to be sent off and filed. And then we had to wait for them to approve it, look through everything and approve it. And so it's all done online now. So it only takes 2 to 3 days. So they said, oh, you'll have it back in 2 to 3 days. I'm like, wait, what? She says, yeah. She says, everything's filed online now. I'm like, that is awesome. So out of the global pause has come the ability where government agencies have had to catch up with the fact that you have to be able to file online, because during all the global pause and everything else, they had to go online. They basically were forced to go online. And so I think, and she says, yeah. So she says pre-pandemic, she says, it would have taken us weeks, but she says because of the pandemic, she says we can now file everything online and get everything done in 2 to 3 days. I'm like, that's awesome. So I'm super excited about that. Got that done today, and I'm like being shaking because this week has slowly been speeding up towards the end of the week with opportunities that have been coming in. Got another opportunity presented to me today. There's just so much going on. And I also got access to do my orientation class, and I'm almost done with my orientation class, and my class starts on Tuesday. So I'm going to finish off my orientation tomorrow. If I don't get it done this evening, it'll be done tomorrow. And then I can get access on Tuesday to my class and everything. And we're off and running with the class for the next 7 weeks. I am so excited to be on that. So Tuesday we got access to the orientation. With how busy I've been throughout the week, haven't had a chance to really dig into it. But tomorrow I have blocked in my calendar time to get in and get it done, which is kind of cool because I have to have it done by Tuesday at the latest. Well, they say you can have up to November the 15th, and I'm like, hang on, you're turning around and telling us that we have got serious deadlines on this, and they've actually given us our what the next 7 weeks are going to look like, the topics we're going to be covering. And thankfully, the one that I struggle with the most is the last one, but everything builds up to that last one. And I've been putting into practice a lot of what I've been learning on doing the recordings and the evidence and the notations and the citations, and all of that. So I've been working really, really hard on that. So I get to have another 6 weeks of practice before I actually have to go through a workshop on it. So I'm looking forward to that. Resources have always been sort of like one of those things. Like I really don't want to do it, but I know I have to. And now I'm learning how to do it all correctly. Yes, I have sources for all the documentation that I have sources for them. I have it written down. I may not have it in the correct format, which is something I'm going to be learning. And you would think from somebody who had to do that sort of stuff when I was in high school and the school librarian, because basically when you do up so back in the day when I was in high school, jeepers, it wasn't that long ago. It doesn't feel like it was that long ago. But anyway, so when I was in high school back in the day, I worked as a school librarian, and as a student, you could be a school librarian, and you go and you work in the libraries during your lunch hour, during the lunch breaks, and during the recess breaks as well. You can go in there and you learn to cover the books and document the books on the index cards. And you have these index cards, which were actually these are Yeah, catalog cards, 4x6. Yeah, they were 3x5s. 3x5s. And they had the little catalog drawers, and you'd go through the cards to find the authors or the book titles. Where in the Dewey Decimal System it was filed. If we had that particular book, where was it filed, and that sort of stuff. So we had different cards that we had to make based on the book. And when you look at how citations are done, it's basically the exact same way we used to type up the cards, with the title, the author, the publisher, when it was published, all of that information. The only thing that you put in the front of that, and then of course you've got to add to that what page you found something on, or the website you found it on, or where exactly within that file or that book you found the information. But apart from that, as far as the citation goes, all of that information regarding the book or the website or anything like that is the basic, well, except for the website, is the same way we used to fill out these index cards. So that was really, really cool. And so I suddenly thought, well, this is just like classifying books, but I don't have to go find the Dewey Decimal number for them, which was bonus. No, I really did like the Dewey Decimal System. I know that 920 is where you find all your biographies and autobiographies and a lot of history stuff. I still remember that one. And it was in the zeros where you would find things on etiquette. And it's amazing what sticks in your brain after all these years. When I haven't used it, oh my gosh, I haven't used the Dewey Decimal System since 1986 was the last time I used the Dewey Decimal System for anything. But yet I can still remember that 920s is your biographies, your history, the beginning of it's basically the history section, and then it's divided up into biographies and World War II and World War I and all your different historical events and all of that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's amazing what you remember. 920s, probably because it was my favorite section, and the other favorite section was the zeros, because that was where you had like all your etiquette and social stuff in there as well. So what was the other one? Oh my gosh, it probably would not take me long to pick it back up again if I decided to go back and look at the Dewey Decimal System. I'd probably going, oh yeah, I remember that. Yep, got that. So we're down. And interestingly enough, when you're on an Air Force base, because I was on the Royal New Zealand Air Force Base in Wigram when it used to be there, it's now been turned into a residential place. They closed the base down, which upset me greatly because it was my favorite base. It was also the very first base in Air Force Base in New Zealand as well. But it's now a big, huge residential area. But when I used to work in the library, what was interesting is that, I worked on base and everything else, and the most requested books, which is why I remember the 920s and the etiquette area, is because we had a lot of people coming in looking for books in those particular areas. They wanted biographies, they wanted history, they wanted the social etiquettes and things, because being on an Air Force base, if you were an officer or an officer's wife, there were certain etiquettes that you had to know how to do. And the Emily Post book was constantly out. Emily Post was constantly, we actually had to go buy like 2 or 3 more copies because it was in such demand. And it's the Emily Post book of etiquette. And it would show you how to set a table, how to write invitations, and even how to dress, how to stand, how to shake hands, when you should, when you shouldn't, and all the shoulds and all what you should do and what you shouldn't do in different social circumstances, all that, even how to write a letter, formal invitations, how they should look, when you are doing a dinner, how the table is set, what do you do with your napkin, how do you place your knife and fork when you're sitting at a table. It had like everything, basically everything in life, from how you had to dress and present yourself to how you would sit at a table and eat. And it's like about this thick. It was not a small book. It was about this thick. And it was like normal, let's see. Yeah, it was about the size of this, but about this thick and hardback. And like I said, it was constantly, we actually had to go buy more copies of it just to meet the demand of what we needed. And it was a lot of officers' wives coming in, and you could always tell the new officers' wife, the new wives, either because an officer had just gotten married or her husband had just been commissioned. And so you could always tell the new ones because they were the ones that were coming in looking for the book, because that was the book to read. That was the book you had to know inside out and back to front and upside down. I'm like, why don't you just go buy a copy of? Then you've got the reference book in your house. But yeah, that book was constantly out. And then we had a lot of people coming in asking for biographies on historical figures. Most of the historical figures were figures from World War I, World War II. There was a lot of books being taken out on specific battles within World War I and World War II. So it was kind of interesting. How did we get on? Oh, yeah. So, yes, I'm looking forward to the citations portion of the class in week 7. Oh my gosh, I am all over the place tonight. I'm supposed to be doing a weekly recap. So yes, not a history lesson on Helen's life, but it's just so Monday was so let's go back and do a quick recap. Monday was an extremely busy day for us in everything that I did. It was but a lot of stuff got done that day. A lot of projects got completed and everything else, because this week I've been working on a lot of projects that have to be completed before I start the class on November 1st. So I'm starting with a clean slate and then just dealing with what comes in as it comes in. Tuesday we talked about favorite family recipes that have been passed down through generations and doing recipe stories. And recipe stories are taking those family favorite recipes, writing out the recipe on the side of one card, and on the back of the card, writing the story about the recipe, what memories you have about making that dish or being in the kitchen and making that dish. Was it who was the dish? Where did the recipe originally come from? Things like that. So we're talking about the history of the recipes in the family, and then also talking about the recipe books that were created by local associations and societies and non-profits for fundraising and that sort of thing, that they would then sell to members, and being able to find copies of those in libraries and archives and things. And then because your ancestor may have belonged to that society they donated their recipes to, you could then go and research newspapers and find articles about that organization that may even mention your ancestor's name in there. So there was talking about what's cooking. On Wednesday, we talked about organizations, associations, clubs, sports teams, non-profits, societies, that sort of thing, and about, did your ancestors have any affiliation with any of those? And if so, then those particular associations, clubs, etc., those organizations would have may have records of minutes of members, even throw churches into there as well for church membership and that sort of thing. But church records go a little further, because not only would they have all their church membership information as well, they would also have things like baptisms, marriages, and funerals that were held there in the church. So church records, great resource for that as well. And in some of them, there may even be, instead of just having the facts, it may have a little more detail in there based on the church and what records they kept on things like baptisms and marriages and funerals. I know when I was searching some records in Mexico, yes, it was all written in Spanish. Google Translate to the rescue. But it helped me enough. And even the Family Search Organization had a cheat sheet of common terms, that if you see these terms, this is the father, this is the name that you'll see for father, this is the name that you would see for mother, this is the name that you would see for birth, this is the name what you would see for marriage, this is what you would see. They had like a cheat sheet. So it was very easy to go in there. And then they had like all the months written out in Spanish as well as in English. And then they had, here's all the family relations in Spanish and in English. And yes, it was done in Spanish, as in Spain Spanish, not in Latino. Is it Latino Spanish? I think. I don't know the official name, so please don't shoot me. But I know there is some difference between the Spanish that's spoken in Spain and the Spanish that is spoken in the Latin American countries as well. But there's there's a lot of similarities in the words that we use for mother, father, child, the months, the dates, the years, that sort of thing. So I was able to, with the help of Google Translate, and I know it's not the most perfect tool out there, but it was enough to get me by. I was able to go through, and they would have paragraphs or even a whole page or just half a page written about a birth, about a baptism or a death or a marriage. And it would go into great detail that on this day, and they would have the whole date spelt out. So it would be like 22nd of March, 1840. and they'd have the name of the church. They would have what the event was. They would have the name of the parties involved. Like if it was a child, is the son of, and then it would have the parents' names. Was baptized with the name of, and it'd have the child's name, who is the son of or the daughter of, and then it would have the parents' name. Witness, the godparents were, and then it would list the godparents and the relationship to the child, whether they were, and if they were a family member, it would have that family member. It would have that relationship listed there. Where have you heard that before? Yes, it took a lot longer to pull the details, but the details you could pull were amazing. And then it would have, if they were a friend, they would have friend written there. And they would have who was providing the information for the register, and who the witnesses were and that sort of thing. And for marriages, it would have the name of the groom, who was the son of, and would have the parents' names listed, and it would also have the mother's maiden name. And it was interesting because the mother always keeps her maiden name. She just hyphenates it with the husband's last name, but it's always her. Now let me see if I can remember this correctly. I might have to go back and have a look to make sure I get it correct. It had like their Christian name, then their maiden name, and they didn't actually change their name, but the children ended up with a hyphenated name. So the wife would not change her name. In most cases that I found when I was looking through the records, because it would always have, wherever you saw the mother's name written or the wife's name written, it was always with her maiden name. But the children would have a hyphenated name with the mother's maiden name and the father's name. And actually, no, they had the father's name was first, so the father's last name was first, and then hyphen with the mother's last name. So it was interesting how they did that. So that was kind of, but it also made it a little easier to track back when you knew that that's how they structured the names. You then knew what the mother's name is. So if you came across a marriage or a death and it didn't have the parents' names in there, you knew what the mother's last name was. So that helped a little bit with helping with research as well, if they were an abbreviated format of the record. But if you actually saw the record, and it was all handwritten, so you had to decipher the handwriting, then type it into Google Translate for it to translate it for you. So yeah, there was hours spent deciphering some records, but it was a lot of fun learning it. And because I was in the mode for this particular family tree, I could very quickly go in there and I could scan through looking for the keywords that I needed. And then I could say, oh, father. And then whatever followed was the father's name. Oh, mother. Yep. And they would even, and on some baptismal records, it would even have the marriage date of the parents. And I was like, this is awesome. So it was very interesting to read what the churches in Mexico had in their church records. So for baptism, you could end up with the name of the child, the parents' names, sometimes the marriage date of the parents. Then you would have the person who was there to record the information, who was providing the information, and you would have there the name of any witnesses for the baptism and the name of the godparents. So, and some would put in there, some wouldn't. So it was very interesting to read those. But organizations, look for any records, any minutes, membership listings, things like that. Then go and look at the newspapers to see what information you can find in the newspapers about those organizations and what they wrote in there. And if your ancestors are mentioned anywhere in the newspaper articles as well, because it gives you a different picture gives you another perspective to your ancestors. They're not just birth, death, marriage. Here's a little more. Here, you've got your occupation, you've got who their children are, when they got married. But you can find a little more information in there if you start looking into newspapers and things. Even on marriage announcements, some of them even went into the story of how they met, which is kind of cool, on the engagement announcements. And then yesterday we talked about the wonders of wandering, where we were looking at immigration records and shipping lists, passenger lists for ships and on departure and arrivals. In some cases, you can find either the departure one or the arrival one. So in rare cases, you will find both, and the information that you can get from there. So that's been you guys have got a lot of information. Anything from, what did we do? What did I say? From recipes to organizations to traveling. All different ways that you can find more information about your ancestors to give you a better picture about who they were and what their life was like. And I think it's important to understand some of the struggles that your ancestors would have gone through, so that you can appreciate, because some traits do get passed down through generations. It's actually, some of the traits are actually mapped in your DNA. I want to get to do a DNA course, part of the course as well too. So I'm looking forward to that. But some traits are actually passed down in your DNA. And there are, I think it's 23andMe offers a really good, you've got the normal one, which does the ancestry one. And then for a little bit extra, you can get a health and traits add on to that, where you don't even need to submit another sample. They take the sample that they already have from you and will do the traits and things like that. So even traits down to hair color, eye color, your fingers, the length of your fingers. So, is your index finger longer than your middle finger, or are they the same length? And then there's that thing about whether you have the Y or you don't have the Y when you put your index fingers together like this. That's all listed in your DNA, in the DNA. It's actually quite fascinating. On the toes, what shape are your toes? And you can find out whether it's a Greek foot or a Roman foot, or I can't remember the other ones. But it's all to do with the length of the toes and things like that. But they can find that it's all in your DNA. Eye color, hair color, even if you go gray early. On one of those, my maternal grandfather, his wedding picture with my grandmother, he's completely white. He was only like 21 or 22 when they got married. His hair's completely white at that point. My mum, I can't remember what age she started getting the grays. I was like around 27 when that happened. 27? Yeah, 27 when I started coloring my hair to cover up the grays. And I stopped doing that just before I turned 50. Like a couple of months before I turned 50, I went to Brad and I said, I'm not going to color my hair anymore. He's like, okay. I says, what do you think about that? He says, your hair, if you want to do that, that's fine. He says, you don't have a problem with that? He says, nope. And so I called up my hairstylist and said, next time I'm coming in, we're cutting out the color, and we're not coloring anymore. We're done with coloring. And it was January, and that was October of 2016, and then January of 2017, when I had the next haircut, we had this much color left in my hair before it was all completely gone. So the last cut that I had that took out most of the color left me with about this much on the end of every hair, and so I was basically gray at that point. But what's interesting is that since my hair's growing out at the back, and I'm not going to take my hair down right now, but at the back on the underside, it's a lot darker. When I look at the color, I go, that's my original color. So it's interesting that when my hair was short, I couldn't see that coloring, but now the hair's gone long, I can see the original color back there that's still there. And I said to somebody, if I was to go and shave my head, it would grow back snow white. I'm sure of it. But the cool part is that when I had that haircut in January of 2017, is that I almost started crying, and then people were like, I was like going, oh my gosh. And they're like, what's the matter? Because Tasman was showing me how my hair looked, and I was going, oh my gosh, I said, this is amazing. I said, wow. And she's like, what? And I turned around and I said, I didn't realize I look younger now than when I had the color in my hair. And it's true. I look back at some of the pictures that I had when my hair was colored, and I thought, I look old. I look like an old person trying to look young. I'm like, oh my gosh, all those years that I could have looked younger just by letting my hair color go natural. So hair color's natural, and I've been getting comments lately about how young I'm looking and all of that, and I'm like, this is pretty cool. I like this. I'm reverse aging. Yay. The hair color may not be, but the body is. Yes, we love that. So anyway, that's it for this week. How was your week? What accomplishments did you get done this week? What things have, and like I said, with the paperwork on my business and stuff, I had literally been dragging my chain on that about filing it. I don't know, when it comes to filing things, I'm just like, I really don't want to do that. I don't wanna. And then because of a project I was working on with a friend of mine yesterday morning, it was like, well, you need to get the paperwork done ASAP for us to be able to move forward with this project. I'm like, damn it. So the paperwork is now officially filed. It's with the lawyer, and they're doing all the filings and everything else, and everything can now be done online. So within 2 to 3 days, I should have everything back, and we should be good to go, move forward with the project. So it's like, yay! And now everything is just starting to snowball, and there's opportunities coming up and that sort of thing as well. And I am so excited about what's coming in the future, and it's all helping, and it's all taking steps from where I am now to helping me build the Before the Dirt Nap business, and make it into the company that is in that mind map. It is, and it's a 10-year journey. There's going to be a lot of mind shift going on, a lot of mindset work going on, because I know that right now I don't have the mindset to be in charge of a company that large, but I also know that over the next 10 years, I am going to be learning and changing and transforming into that person who can be the head of that size company. And as my mindset grows, the business is going to grow as well. So, it's all about the mindset. And there's so many books out there that will tell you, this is the reason why those that win, that suddenly become, multi-millionaires overnight because they win a lottery or something, where are they today? Very few of them very few of them still have that money or anything like that. Most of them end up broke because they don't have the mindset to deal with that amount of money. They can't comprehend it, and they just go on these huge spending sprees, forget to pay taxes or whatever, and end up back where they were when they started again. Those that turn around and take the advice of financial planners, of a good reputable financial planners, still have them, but it's a very, very small portion of those that win these multi-million-dollar lotteries. And so I keep thinking of that and thinking, okay, so I do need to change my mindset. I do need to improve my outlook on some things. And I know I have to transform to become the person that I need to be able to run a company this large. So it's an exciting journey. And all of a sudden this week, things just started. It's like, and I said this to my mastermind group. I said, I feel like somebody has taken the brakes off, and now we are flying forward, and I'm just vibrating with excitement. But that's it. I'm out of here for today. So go out, have a super fantastic sparkling day. Let us know in the comments below some of the, here she comes. Hi, sweetie girl, you want to go get me my shoes? You want to go get mommy shoes? Nope. Ask her multiple times a day. Somebody turns around and said, oh, she's just smart enough that she doesn't want to pick up your smelly shoes. I said, yeah, that's probably it. She knows perfectly well what she's about. I mean, she'll go and sit by where they are, but that's all she will do. And she'll just look at them and then look at me as if to say, they're there. So she knows what I need her to do, but she won't do it. And then she says, yeah, she's a smart dog. But anyway, have a super fantastic sparkling evening. Let us know in the comments below what some of the accomplishments were this week that you had, so we can celebrate with you, because I love celebrating accomplishments. So let us know in the comments below, and we will catch you guys back here at 6 p.m. tomorrow evening. Hei konera.